Meeting of Middlesex County School Board will now come to order. Could we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda? No, I didn't have any. Okay.
You do, when the purpose assignments, make a motion.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we consider the regulations for staff leaves and absences
Okay.
as part of the agenda.
Okay. Move, have a second. Second. Move proper second. Question? All in favor? Aye. Motion so carried. Next, we have public announcements. Public announcements are February, Black History Month, February 13th, joint board meeting, work session at the Historical Courthouse at 4:30 with school board and board of supervisors. February 19th, the school system will close President's Day. February 20th, joint board meeting, renovation meeting at MHS in the Media Center at 6 o'clock, school board and board of supervisors. The 26th of February, public budget hearing at 6:30 p.m. at St. Clair Walker Middle School. March the 11th, workday, no school for students, and school board regular meeting at 6:30 p.m. here at St. Clair Walker. Dr. Sykes, do you have any recognition?
We do. We have a few recognitions. I'm actually going to go to the podium, and I know looking up at Mr. Dunkel, we do have slides for part of those anyway. Okay, we're going to start with our sorry about that. Navigator of the Quarter recognitions. And so part of our capacity building, one of our strategies is a recognition of faculty and staff who support students above and beyond, and that are tied to our strategic objectives. And for the second quarter, we focused on deeper learning, meaning our students have diverse educational opportunities that promote confidence, passion, and responsibility. And so we shared our nomination form with staff, students, parents, and the community. And tonight we will recognize 7 teachers and 3 support staff who received multiple nominations. So as I call your name, please come forward into the front. We have a certificate and a pen, and I will ask you to remain up here so that we can get a photograph. And so we will start with, let's see. Just making more noise and moving these things over. So the first navigator we want to recognize is Brooke Balderson. Brooke is a kindergarten teacher at Middlesex Elementary School, and looks. If you live in Deltaville, you can't get out tonight, so we understand that. So I will make sure that Brooke gets this. All right. Next, we have Amy Donovan, and she is one of our nutrition staff workers at the elementary school, and I don't believe that she could make it this evening either. So I will make sure she gets this. Next, we have Kelsey Eanes, and I see that she did make it this evening. Kelsey's also a kindergarten teacher at MES. Next, Bailey Hooper is one of our mathematics teachers at Sinclair Walker Middle School. Mr. Clark Laster, one of our mathematics teachers at Middlesex High School. Sherry Liverman at Middlesex Elementary School. Sherry's been one of our paraprofessionals and long-term substitutes, filling lots of roles down there. Mrs. Jill Shores, third grade teacher at Middlesex Elementary. Mr. Matt Short, technology teacher at Sinclair Walker Middle School. Ms. Carrie Ward, teacher at Middlesex High School, science teacher, I should say. And last but not least, Ms. Dale White at Middlesex Elementary School. Dale is currently a paraprofessional, but has worked in our Title I reading program and has been at Middlesex Elementary for many, many years. Perfect. Thank you all. And so I'm going to continue with recognitions. February is School Board Appreciation Month. And the foundation of student success is a year-long leadership and advocacy and support from our school board. We're proud of our division, and School Board Appreciation Month is the time to recognize and celebrate the accomplishments of our elected trustees. In Middlesex County Public Schools, school board members must develop policies and make tough decisions on complex educational and social issues impacting the entire community. They bear responsibility for an annual budget of $23 million, 1,200 students, 225 employees, and 4 buildings, plus a central office and staff. Too often we neglect to recognize the dedication and hard work of these men and women who represent us. So thank you all for everything you do for our students and our community. This week is School Board Clerk Week, and I'd also like to recognize 2 people who, on top of their daily responsibilities and obligations in their regular positions within the school division, have an added responsibility to the school board as the clerk, Ms. Kim Bagby, and then the deputy clerk, Ms. Karen Murray. And we want to thank you both for all that you do for our students and our community. And I would recognize also our student school board member. She also lives at the lower end of the county and is not able to be at tonight's meeting, but I do have certificates for all of you, which I will deliver to you as I make my way back on stage. We'll give them to you at the end, just to keep things moving along, if that's okay.
Thank you, Dr. Sykes. Next, we have Educational highlights. Compass Academy.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Danielle Norris. I'm the director of Compass Academy. I have a few of my students that are joining us tonight, along with my lead teacher, Gina Putney, who is going to give you some background about what they've accomplished this year and what they're looking forward to this spring. And thank you for having us join you tonight.
Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Gina Putney. I am the teacher at Compass Academy. This is my second year at Compass, and I could not be more proud to be a part of the program. This year we have, this is a picture of our space while I talk to you guys can see it. This year we have 12 students in Compass, 8 seniors, 3 juniors, and 1 sophomore. 4 of our students are returning from last year, which means we had a lot of new faces this year, which has been really fun. This evening, what we're going to do is kind of break up what we're talking about with our highlights of our program for the school year, and what we've done and what we're about to do as well. I'm going to start by talking about Functional Fridays, which is a new endeavor that we started this school year. I approached Miss Norris at the beginning of the school year. It was actually at the end of last school year. And we talked about the importance of life skills that students don't necessarily get in the regular education curriculum, and how we wanted to tie that into what we do within our program, because we do have that flexibility. So we started Functional Fridays. And so we try every Friday-ish to touch on some sort of life skill that would benefit the students outside of the classroom. We started this school year with a transportation unit, where we partnered with our school's transportation department. We went over to the bus shop and learned in the heat and in the cold that we can check the tire pressure. We learned about checking vehicle fluids, changing tires, and jumping vehicles. We've also focused on other topics. We're currently working on writing resumes, and then we're going to go into writing cover letters as well. So that way students have something that they can actually take with them for their next step. With me, I have James and Avery Wyatt, who are going to speak about a few of our other partnerships and experiences that we've completed this year at Compass. So here is Cameron to talk about our partnership with the Science Museum of Richmond. Oh, and here's pictures, I'm sorry, of our Functional Friday. This is our car transportation unit there, which is a big hit.
Hi, my name is Cameron Williams and I'm a junior. This is my second year at Compass. We travel to the Forge at the Science Museum of Richmond once a month and get to make different projects of our choice. My favorite project was screen printing. We also make cornhole boards, candles, and pottery.
Next, we have Avery Wyatt to talk about our sponsors, students, and our community service.
Hi, I'm Avery Wyatt. This is my second year at Compass. I'm a junior, and this is probably one of my favorite things I've ever done in my life, per se. We got to raise money for kids with sponsor a student association, and I just remember we have big thanks to our donators. I think we had like 40 alone donators, and then we had a big donation from the Moose Lodge, which is greatly appreciated. And we ended up getting a lot of money for the 7 students. And it was just so much fun to go to the store and pick out things for other people. And I remember that Walmart gave us all these goodie bags with the good deed we were doing, and it was very empowering. And probably just, again, one of my favorite moments I've ever had at Compass or in Middlesex. And also we have community service, which I think is very good for people like who aren't as social to really get out there and connect with the people in your community. I never really understood how much community service can actually help a community until I started volunteering in it and bagging food with people, setting up events for our local oyster festival. It's just nice knowing that you're helping your community and meeting more people while doing it.
In addition to our community service, actually all of our students are working on a community service project. And so we're building a garden for the community at Compass Academy. So there will be more to come on that But we're looking forward to growing it and kind of using it as a stepping stone to build a foundation for healthy fruits and vegetables for the local community. So that is the next endeavor that we will hopefully be able to share about. That is it for Compass. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right. Next, we'll open the floor for public comment.
Mr. Caesar Gresham of Locust Hill. Okay. David Gresham of Urbana. Carly Gresham. Okay, thank you.
If no one else, public comment is now closed. Board members, comments or reports?
Chesapeake, Governor's School Board will meet this Thursday. We met, on February the 7th with a finance committee, and since it's budget season, you know what we talked about. But we had a good meeting with the two members who've come from the supervisors. And I think we had a chance to discuss it in a more informal setting. Tiffany, do you have any comments?
I don't.
Okay. And I think that's all I have right now.
Okay. Tiffany, do you have any?
Nothing additional now.
Okay.
February 8th, myself and Dr. Size, we attended the Bridging Communities first meeting. We voted on our chairman and vice chairman, and also we were informed that there's going to be new restrictions on credits for the VA DOE, but Dr. Ellis is going to make adjustments to the curriculum so that they maintain the 3 credit hours within those classes. And our next meeting is going to be on April 11th. Plus, there's gonna be a golf tournament on May 17th at Brookshire. And also May 21st will be signing day, and May 23rd will be the commencement.
Okay.
I attended the regional special education meeting with Dr. Seitz in January, and this was my first time attending. We've all switched committee assignment. My major takeaway from this meeting was that I am so thankful for all of our teachers in our county, but even more so our special education teachers and their commitment to the students here. And they're a breed of their own, and we want them to stay. Don't ever leave. Our next meeting is in April, and I think I also have a WHRO meeting coming up in March, so more on that.
Okay. And I've had no meetings with the committees that I saw. All right, let's see, next we have action items.
We do. And if I may, I did see that Brooke Balderson came in, so I did want to recognize her and give her our navigator of the quarter. Okay, now for action items. The first one we have is the 24-25 school year calendar, which you saw last month. After last month's meeting, we sent out a survey and got feedback on that. We took the feedback from the survey and we did make some adjustments to the calendar that you're going to see this evening. The first one was moving the workday in January. We had it a little bit later, but based on, and it was mainly staff feedback, We are moving that to Monday, January 6th. So that after the winter break, the students will continue to be off on the 6th and our staff will come back for workday / professional development. We did that this year. And we got lots of positive feedback on how that worked really well for the staff coming back. And so the instructional days stay the same. We've just adjusted when that workday time is. And then we made another adjustment in October for parent-teacher conferences. We kind of shifted a day later in the week, and then we also shifted the time that we get off for it. And so with this new calendar, Thursday, the 18th will become an early release day, followed by parent-teacher conferences that will go into the evening on that Thursday. And then the following day, which is Friday, the 18th, will become a full workday / professional day for staff. And so that allows them, it's again, the same amount of time that students are in school during the month of October. It just allows greater flexibility for the staff for their workday following an evening, when they work into the evening for parent-teacher conferences. So this has gone through our administrative council, and our superintendent's advisory committee also reviewed everything, and I bring this calendar to you this evening for approval. But I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Anyone have any questions, comments at this time? If not, do I have a motion?
So moved. I approve the calendar.
Moving proper seconds, question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried.
All right, the second action item, which was added to your agenda this evening, it's just a second reading of policy GCBD, staff leaves and absences. As I shared last month, we had GCBD-R, which are the regulations that cover the definitions and the types of leave. And we just needed the policy to accompany that. There have been no changes since first reading last month.
Okay. Could I have a motion on policy GCBD on second reading?
So moved.
Second.
Moving properly second, question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried. Okay, next we have information items, 2025 budget presentation.
Yes, and I will move the podium for that. Okay, so it is that time of year for the formal budget presentation. I know you've had some information presented at prior school board meetings, and then, of course, at the work session we just held last week. But everything we do within our school, all of our decisions, including our budget, are based on our strategic plan and charting our course. We look at our mission and vision of engaging, inspiring, and empowering our students, which are based on the 4 key priorities or strategic objectives that are associated with that plan. They're the driving force behind the what we do and the how we do it. And so when we look at a school budget, I just remind everybody that budgets are based on an estimation of revenues and expenditures for a set period of time. And so what I'll go through this evening is where we're getting our estimate of revenues from, and then also what our expenditures look like for the year. It is the Board of Supervisors, that's our appropriating body, and that's who appropriates the funds for us. But it is this board that's the governing body, and it's the board that makes the decisions on the how, the what, the why, the where we spend the funds that we do spend. And so the variables related to the FY25 budget, or more specifically, where our funding comes from. We have state funding, federal funding, other funding, and I'll explain that a little bit. And then the local operational funding is what we receive from our local governing body there, or appropriating body, which is the Board of Supervisors. And so state funding, first of all, what it's based on is our average daily membership, or ADM is what you hear us refer to. Our current budget is based on an ADM of 1,150 students. Looking at the graduating class and then incoming kindergartners, we're basing next year's budget on 1,160, so an increase of about 10 students. That is not our total student population though, as that does not include pre-K students that we do not receive funding for, but we are responsible for educating. And then any students that we have an alternative day placement. The LCI, or the composite index, is what the state it's the formula the state uses. It indicates what a division's ability to pay is when it comes to school funding. It is re-benchmarked every 2 years, and going into the 2-year biennium, we were moving from a 0.6324 to a 0.6389, which means that the state says, Middlesex County, you have a little bit more ability to fund your school over the next 2 years. And so basic aid, you'll hear us speak about that a little bit. That's based on the standards of quality, where the Virginia Department of Education indicates what programs we have, how much staffing we can have for those programs and such. And then the LCI, which is, again, what I explained, how they go through our ability to pay. So when we look at SOQ funded programs or positions, the state does not fully fund all of the positions we have. When I was sharing the information that the school board oversees, we have about 225 employees, but the state only considers about 61% of them under their state funding. And even when they're under the state funding, it does not mean that a position is fully funded. It could be that a position is only partially funded. And so that goes into the makeup of where our state funding comes from. As we move through the presentation a little bit, you'll see where things are up and where things are down and kind of where that's impacting us. Federal funding is comprised of our title funding. So that's titles 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then IDEA, which is our special education funding. Other funding consists of our non-resident student tuition. It could be rebates, refunds, donations, grants, things like that that we receive that are outside of federal or state funding. And then our E-rate factors into that also. And then the local operation funding is what's supported by the locality. And so it's what the locality is responsible for picking up. Of the 64% that the state says the locality can afford, plus the 100% of what the state does not fund is what the locality is responsible for. And so this just gives you in a pie chart looking at what that funding looks like. You'll see that the bulk is from the locality, with this budget being 63.5%. That county transfer number is both the local operation that we needed and debt service is included in that. And then you'll see that the next largest piece is from the state, still is only 32%, with 4% coming from the federal government, and then just a 0.4 in that other category. And so this slide shows both state and federal. The state aid from sales tax is separated out, but at the top, the state aid includes everything else. So it's our SOQ funded programs, it's incentive programs. And so that may be compensation supplements. It's the extra funds we receive for having students who are at risk of graduating. It's VPI. If the state has put any other incentives in, sometimes you'll hear them referred to as hold harmless. So when, if the state has reduced the amount of income that comes to us in a certain area, sometimes they'll build in an additional area to help support that so that divisions aren't hit so dramatically. Which is nice, except the hit just comes the next year, usually, if the programs are not supported. It's categorical funded, so it's any funding we receive for homebound instruction. It's our Medicaid reimbursement. If we've got students that are enrolled in the local regional jail but are still under our services, there's support there. It also includes lottery funded programs. So the at-risk funding also falls in there. There's early reading intervention, class size reduction, and some other things that fall into the state aid. And so you'll see that that is down just slightly. Sales tax is up a little bit there. You'll see in a later slide that that's about an $8,000 increase, but our other funds have gone down about $8,000. So we're looking at a net zero there when you look at state and other funds. Federal funds, you'll see here all down are down. The bulk of that though is related to our ESSER fund grants. that we received at the beginning of the pandemic. We did use those to supplement some positions that we needed in order to get open and stay open. The funds expire in September of this year, and so obviously they're no longer available for the FY25 budget. However, the positions are still needed and are in the budget. And so that's where you see that there's a decrease in federal funding. And so the considerations, or where we're seeing that our expenditures are increasing going into FY25. So for compensation, this budget includes a step increase, and the step increase only, that's about 1.3%. There's a little bit of money that's coming to us from the state because of the governor's budget that indicates or proposes a 1% bonus to SOQ funded positions, or the way it was worded, we can use it for others. I will say, and I should have already said, is that this is based on the governor's proposed budget. I'll explain a little bit more about that as we move through the evening also. Health insurance, we're looking at a 2% increase. We'll have that definite number later this week. Yes, it's an increase, but it's not as bad as what we looked at last year. Last year, we were at a 14.2% increase. Fortunately, Anthem capped that at 10. Positions. And so we've got some new positions and positions that need to be funded because they've previously been grant funded. New position for us is reading specialist at the middle school. This is required by the state, and there is some funding that comes to us, but it's only partial funding. For example, going into next year, we'll have 2 reading specialists. The state funds 1.31, and even of the 1.31, then it still runs through the LCI. And so now they only fund 34% of that. And so you'll see, which is often the case, we have mandates that are not fully funded by the state. Positions that we still have in the budget that have previously been ESSER grant funded. We've had building-based subs at all of our schools. And what that means is full-time substitutes that report to work every day. We needed those people in place during the time that we were experiencing the pandemic. Just because that piece has passed does not mean all of our schools don't need a substitute every single day. And so this budget keeps them in place. They are very flexible and versatile and go wherever they're needed on any given day, but it's one less phone call that has to be made in that morning to have our classroom staffed. And then a clinic assistant, where we brought that person in through a grant. It actually wasn't ESSER grant, but it was grant funded through the Department of Education and Department of Health. That person has been an assistant primarily at the elementary school, but is able to bounce through the middle and high school and provide support when any of that nursing staff is absent. We do not have substitute nursing staff. We would love to have them. They're just not there. And so this person has been able to, again, be that support person at the elementary school where they're seeing at least 70 students a day in and out of the clinic. And so they're seeing documented parents contacted and such. And so we're keeping that position in the budget. The next is carpentry at the high school. Our plan is to move that from a part-time position to a full-time position. The program has been very successful, and moving it to full-time allows us to increase those opportunities, especially in students who are learning on the trade side of things and have additional courses there. This budget also eliminates 2 teaching positions. And so as we've continued to add, we also continue to look at where are areas that we know we can, I hate to use the word cut, but that's the word that I'm going to have to use, or maybe more eloquently is eliminate. We've had positions that we have been unable to fill, and we've been able to make that work. We've looked at the number of students, student data, and looking at that for next year. This is a budget that does eliminate 2 of those positions. And then in the areas of instruction, operation, and technology, there's just some of them are just natural increases due to inflation. We have had to up some of our services that we need. Even though we've got building-based subs, we've had to increase the substitute line because as our staff gets sick, and especially at the elementary school, we have 80 staff at the elementary school. And when our little ones share germs with each other, they share them with their teachers also. And so the number of substitutes we've had to have is a cost to us. So we've had to increase that area. Occupational therapy, physical therapy, hearing services, all of those for students who have those needs, and we're required to provide those, and additional staff development. And then operations and technology, we just had some naturally occurring increases through either purchase services, which I'll explain a little bit more as we move through, or the need to increase our budgets due to repairs. And so this slide I recognize is very difficult to read. This is a comparison of 9 divisions in our region. It does not include all of our divisions. This slide just shows who's the lowest salaries and who's the highest salaries, step by step, 0 through 30. We are not the lowest and we are not the highest. And so the next slide just gives more of a visual of where we rank. And so if you're looking at first year teacher coming in, we rank 6 out of 9 for a new teacher coming in that does not have any experience. We move up a little bit in ranking in steps 5 through 9, where we're ranked 4th, but then after that, we drop from 5th and then to 6th place. And so again, this one shows what we've been able to do compensation wise over the past 6 years. FY19, you'll see when there was a 7%, that's when those of you who were here remember the Springstead study, which is a salary study we went through with both the school division and the county, which showed that we were significantly under where we should be compensation wise across the board. And so we were able to make some gains there. But then you'll see in FY20 and 21, we were back down to either only a step in 1% or only a step in FY21. We've been fortunate for the past 2 years to increase salaries again, and including the 2% that was added just last month. Over the past 2 years, we have been able to provide a 14% increase with those 2 years added together. So the governor's budget again proposes a 1% bonus or equivalent action for SOQ funded, which again is about 61% of our staff. We're able to put that $34,000 that comes to us towards step increases, which is about $185,000 cost for a step increase. So we're able to put $34,000 towards that. We don't know what the Senate and the House projections are, because they're not out yet, nor has anything been leaked out about what they may look like. And so this is the expenditure projection by state category. Because we are categorically funded, school divisions can be categorically funded in these state areas, or they can be lump sum funded. Karen and I did reach out to our region to see what that looked like in the area, and of the 17 school divisions in Region 3, 11 of them are lump sum funded. So this is a breakdown of what our funding looks like by categories. You'll see that instruction is the bulk of the budget, which is required. Administration, health and attendance, that is central office staff, school board members, nurses, any of our division positions like social worker, psychologist, our speech language pathologist. So it's their salaries and all of the expenditures that go with their offices. Smaller in number, obviously, but most everyone in these areas is on a specialist or administrative scale and have lots of years of service. And then you'll see debt service is at 6%. You'll see later on in our presentation that has gone down for the year. And so this just shows the variances from FY24 going into FY25. I'll just point out some of the ones that look a little bit larger. Administration, attendance, and health is the position that was previously grant funded that falls into that category now, that's built into the budget. And that's the clinic assistant position. Transportation, I'm excited to say that we are fully staffed in our transportation department and with experienced drivers. So any new drivers that we had come to us may have been new to Middlesex, but they brought with them experience. So of course that does raise salary and benefits there. Minimum wage increase, we're watching that, and that's expected to go through. And so that we need to do an adjustment there because we do have staff members in that area that are affected that need to be brought up. We've increased the budget for repairs on our diesel buses. We found out when we looked into that a little bit further that we were not allowing the right amount per repair, and we were coming in over what our budget was. And so we had to do an increase for that for the next year. And then purchase services, having to do with Sunny Merriman, that's who we purchase all of our buses through, and any shop support for work that cannot be done in-house. Anything that can be done in-house is, but not everything related to our vehicles can be done in-house. And so we do have to pay for that outside. Technology, we're seeing either additional software and purchase services that are either new, or they increased in subscription costs, or they were initially funded through ESSER, and we have seen the benefit of them, and they are included in our budget on a larger basis. And then debt service, our debt service is down. And so this also just breaks it out into our expenditures in a chart. The bulk of our expenses are our salaries and benefits. That's about 76% of our budget, or salaries and benefits. Other charges are utilities, insurance, leases, rentals, travel, dues and membership. Tuition, we pay tuition to regional programs such as the Chesapeake Bay Governor's School, the Bridging Communities Regional Career and Technical Center. We have students in RCC welding program, our JRTC program that we partner with King and Queen County with, and then our regional special education program for students who attend in Gloucester County. And then I think I've mentioned a couple of times that debt service is down. And so when I mentioned that salaries consume about 76% of our budget, this is a breakdown of just where they fall in those state categories. Again, instruction is the highest area, which you would expect. And so now the variances in those areas from FY24 to FY25. Again, what I'll do is highlight the ones that look like there's larger changes. Purchase services, for example, in our instructional technology department, we had 2 staff members who are neither no longer with us or no longer employed with us, and it was more efficient for us to move to and expand our purchase agreement or purchase services with Atronica, which is a company that who comes in and provides network support in the classrooms and those things. So that's why it looks like it's such a larger area, because it was a decrease actually in our own staff who were doing that. Materials and supplies, that's anything in our 6,000 code. And so if you're line by line in any of our budget items, so it's fuel, software licenses, subscriptions, general supplies for maintenance, et cetera, all of those things have gone up due to inflation, or maybe the subscriptions have expanded also. Capital outlay is down significantly because we're back to a 1 bus a year replacement cycle. Last year, we had the MES roof restoration at about $800,000. And then we also had the MES LED lighting, and that was, I think, about $250,000. And so now we're back to just the bus replacement. And so that's why that looks like such a large decrease. Tuition, I shared with you who we pay tuition to. Right now, we're looking at an increase in the Bridging Communities for tuition there. And so, as I said, in our capital improvement projects, it's just the bus. They're about $136,000 for a new diesel bus. I would like to point out also, though, the savings that we have seen over the past, I think, 3 years or 2.5 years for items that we either pulled off of the CIP for the county, or we were able to fund them without actually putting them on. And that comes at a savings of $1.7 million to the county. So the county has not had to fund for these capital improvement projects that we've benefited from. And they've all been from grants that we've been able to take advantage of. And so our revenue summary. So state funds and other funds, as I shared earlier, that's about a net zero. State's up a little bit. Other funds are down. Within that state funds, our basic aid is actually up. There's a few more positions that are funded, even if it's partially, and we're looking at 10 more students. It was in our other areas that we took such a big hit, in our other incentive areas, even in the lottery program where we're not receiving as much money, which kind of zeroes it out. Federal funds, I explained, that's for grant funds that had expired, but we still have positions that are needed in the division. And so the orange lines are what we were looking at for our locality. The operation line with an addition of an additional 6.1%. And so debt service is down. That will continue unless, of course, we take on new debt. Our debt service will continue to go down each year. So the two of those things combined, we're looking at an additional 5% increase in our budget. And that's due to, as I shared, what our expenditures are and the need for the request from the local. So again, these are not final numbers. These are the governor's proposed budget, which we think is worst case scenario. February 18th is Budget Sunday. And the last call that I was on with the legislative advocate with the Virginia Association of School Superintendents says that no one knows what it's going to look like. No one's hearing anything about numbers, but there's a strong belief that education is going to be funded a lot more than what's in the current budget that we're operating on. And so, of course, once we get that information, we'll be able to make amendments to the revenue side of this and have more actual numbers. So this budget is based on an ADM, or an enrollment K through 12 of 1160, which is up 10 students. It has the compensation increase is a step increase, which is about 1.3%. It absorbs the health insurance costs with a 2% increase. It has the addition of a new position, which is required by state, and then 4 positions which were previously grant funded, and increasing 1 full-time teaching position from part-time to full-time. And it also includes the elimination of 2 teaching positions. And then, of course, all naturally occurring increases in due to inflation or subscription increases in those. And so we will be anxiously awaiting Budget Sunday to hear what the House and Senate have to say. Takes a little bit of time after that for the calc pool to come out, and that's when Karen goes, I was going to say back to work. She's one of the hardest working people in the division. She'll be working even harder to provide us what the Senate version looks like, what the House version looks like. And we'll be able to give those to you on what they look like. We won't be able to move forward with a budget that includes either one of those, of course, until there's a final budget vote. I don't know that it will take as long as it did last year, but there has to be a budget in place by the end of June, because the current budget that we're operating on ends June 30, and that's the end of the biennium. So next steps for us, as you all know, we present and work with the Board of Supervisors tomorrow at our joint meeting. We host a public hearing here on Monday, February 26th at 6:30, and then at our next regularly scheduled school board meeting on March 11th, we will be back to you with a final budget presentation for your approval. And that will be submitted to the Board of Supervisors, which by code we have to present to them by April 1st. So that concludes the presentation, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions you have.
I've got a couple of questions. Dr. Seitz, you said that we're going to replace one of our buses with a diesel bus.
Only a diesel bus. Yeah, so after they get to a certain age, and we were doing that on a yearly basis, but we had the opportunity, I guess over the past 4 or 5 years, where we've gotten 2 electric buses at a time. So those electric buses replace diesel buses, but our entire fleet, most of our fleet is still diesel.
So what's the difference in price between an electric bus and a diesel bus, just approximate?
An additional 200,000 to 300,000.
It's a
And
good
we
reason
were
to buy diesel, I guess.
right. So we were able to purchase the electric buses due to grants that either supported the whole thing or they supported the difference.
Okay, it'd be nice to have an all-electric fleet, but I guess that's out in the future. The other question I have has to do with purchased services. Do those have to go out for bid? When we hire, for example, the contractual services for the IT, does that have to go out for bid?
That I'm looking at Karen and saying no. So Atronica, the purchase services that we were doing with Atronica, they're under state contract, and what we've done is just increase our services with them.
So,
And it really was the most efficient and seamless way to continue to have the services without having to find one of our own people.
they have been out on a bid, but the state had the bidding process.
Correct, yes.
Yeah. That's all the questions I have.
Okay. All right. All right, move on. Instructional report.
Members of the board, Dr. Seitz. It's a really brief review of the mid-year data, including map growth data and reading and math. And this really is about Middlesex Elementary School. St. Clair Walker is going to take the map data or the map tests this week and the following week. And I can report on those as well. I'll also show overall improvement practices and from the VDOE and growth assessments. Although these assessments do not give the teachers much data, I'm going to present that as well. And finally, I'll report on Ignite. So the first is the MES MAP achievement data. When you look at this data, what I want you to look at is this is math. This is overall. This is grades 2, 3, 4, and 5 at MES. The students who are in the 24th and or 24% are in the 20th percentile for the national norm. So in terms of math, we have kind of decreased a little bit in terms of those bottom two quintiles, that 40% from 24% to 23% and 23 to 21%. So we're kind of just going from the 43rd percent to the 44th percentile. We are kind of growing slowly in that realm, and for the math data. And I can show you that with also with the growth assessments. So
the fall is the first, those were the previous.
Yeah, go to the previous slide. The fall is the top slide. At all grades for math.
Right.
And if you look at the 24%, that 24% is in the 20th percentile.
And the bottom one is the subsequent
winter growth. So basically about 2 to 3 months growth right there, or 2 to 3 months where we have been working with students. So
moving in the right direction.
Yeah, moving in the right direction. And this is reading. The next one. So here we have, I mean, if you look at, this is for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students. And so when I bring forth this data and the principals look at this, they can click on the 22%. They can see all those students in that 22% who are in the bottom quintile, the bottom 20% national norm. And then you can look at the same thing. And then we take those students and we do high intensity tutoring or some sort of interventions with those students. Also, the red and the orange. In the bottom, if you look at that, there's gains in certain grade levels. This is in certain grade levels, but we are still working on our interventions and strategies for that. So we went from the 51st to the 45th percentile. I want to let you know that this is only one test, one day. I think this might be a better look. The next slide. These are gross scores. This is from the Virginia Department of Education. So these are tests that students take in the fall, and then the students take this in the winter. These are actually based on our standards of learning. So students will take these tests at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and finally they take the SOL tests. So if you look at, let's just look at grade 3 and rating. Grade 3 and reading, 58% improved on that growth test. So we have 42%, or 42% who didn't. Some students didn't make any progress. Some students went just below that metric. And there's strengths and weaknesses at each grade level. For instance, 8th grade, they came in very strong. So they're not going to see as much growth as you would see in other grade levels. So if you're looking at the 8th grade, looks like there's 44% who made improvement, but you're looking at a very strong cohort. So that is reading on the left-hand side. Those students who improved in that growth metric from fall to winter, and those in the math side, those students who improved from fall to winter, who improved in their growth metric. Those data do not, I will tell you, these data do not give us, the teachers don't use these data as well as they use the map data, because you can dig deeper into those specific strengths and weaknesses for each individual student.
Are these scores from Middlesex County or are these state scores?
These
on
are
the screen?
Middlesex County scores. Slide. And this is Ignite Reading. The top picture at the top is an example of a student who is on Ignite. This is 15 minutes a day. There's a student by the computer with a live tutor on the screen and working on learning to read, not comprehensions, learning to read. So this is our data. So in the instructional cycle ended on the end of January. Grades 3 through 5, we have 79 students on this program. In terms of weeks of progress per week of instruction, they gained 3 weeks of progress with 1 week of instruction on Ignite. That's other interventions too. This is one factor, and this is what Ignite is measuring. In grades 6 through 8, we have 22 students. Again, this is for students who have very difficult time reading. It's not for comprehensions. Phonics and phonemic awareness. Those students, those 22 students, weeks of progress per week of instruction is 3.32.
Do they do this in the classroom only?
They do.
Okay.
15 minutes.
Is there
Same
a
time
way,
every day for that student.
is there an app or something that goes along with this? I know there's a similar math type program that the kids have used, at least mine have, that they can do at home.
Lexia.
Okay.
Lexia, they can do at home. So
Okay.
Lexia is actually now purchased by the state, but we can get that parent portal for you at home for students to use. Dream Box is for math and Lexia is for reading.
And so how do kids access that at home?
They can access through their single sign-on. I'm not quite sure. ClassLink, which is our single sign-on.
Because they don't bring, at least mine does, they don't bring their Chromebooks home. So I was curious, like if we could tell parents, you know, if you have a computer or a smartphone, how they could access these things that they seem to be working.
Yeah, I'll research that.
Yeah.
Yep, that's great. Go ahead, Danny.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know, because I'm sitting here thinking to myself, why aren't mine doing this? Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay. Good to know. Okay.
For Dreambox, expect 5 lessons a week, 1 every day.
Okay.
And sometimes students go into Dreambox, they do a lesson and say, I really don't like this lesson, they pull back out of it. You want to go through that entire lesson.
Okay.
Are these curriculum individualized per student?
Ignite is, Dreambox is, and so is Lexia. They give the student what they want. Of course, Dreambox, if a teacher wants to, and they're working on a specific content, they can push that out to the students in the class. So this is one thing that I want you to work on. And this, I had to put this together in a chart. So this is the curriculum standard changes. So not to take too much more of your time, we're implementing the English and math in 24-25. And we have new integrated reading writing test, the IRW, in grades 5 through 8, which is they read and they do writing for that. And then science and social studies will come in 25-26. So those are all the changes that our teachers are working very hard and diligently to unwrap that curriculum and meet our students' needs. So on top of all they're doing for teaching students to read and do math, but also have to navigate all this that our principals are supporting them. Thank you.
All right, next we'll open floor again for public comment.
Cesar Gresham. David Gresham of Urbana.
Good evening. February is a month set aside to honor the American history of our Black and African American contributions in the history of the United States of America. We are here in a school that carries the name of Middlesex County's premier Black educator, Mr. St. Clair Walker, a school that is designated as a school to watch. And we have the smallest number of enrolled students with the highest percentage of failing grades. These students are the most vulnerable in St. Clair Walker's student population, special ed and African-American students. And I noticed in your presentation, you didn't break down by ethnicity, so we don't know who's improving and who's not. After presenting these statistics at a previous school board meeting, I followed up with my school board member, Dr. Burnett, on what the strategy is for addressing the issue of the students who are struggling. And I was told the strategy would be individual tutoring. However, this information was specifically presented by ethnicity, but nothing is in the strategy to address the lack of diversity and the lack of training for special education. I was told that St. Clair Walker would not address these students as a group, and I understand that. However, the report is broken down and presented by ethnicity for a reason, by the state and the federal education system. So I am persuaded that there's a need to address the lack of diversity and to make this a serious priority as the board approaches hiring in 2024. Middlesex needs to expand the way they pursue educators and rethink their ideas about how to address special education students. Our special education training appears non-existent in St. Clair Walker. Very little is known or followed in reference to 504 or IEP, and the staff in charge appears to have very little training in this area, as well as the director of special education here in Middlesex County, who guides the staff. Even the required basic training for staff in this area appears to be lacking. Diversity training appears to be non-existent, and for the last 10 years, there appears to be a low priority to build diversity among the teachers and staff. Middlesex County Public School System needs to step up and address these issues and challenges now. Being designated a school to watch, and the criteria is a school that is serving the social, emotional, and academic needs of each student in culturally relevant and inclusive ways. At this time, St. Clair Walker is not meeting that criteria. Thank you.
Darlene Gresham of Urbana.
All right. The school's model is see something, say something, right? I've been going through an issue since October to where things have been illegally done to my child. Policies have not been followed. I've been to school board members. I've been to the superintendent. I've spoke with the assistant superintendent. Everyone knows the issue, so I'm not gonna sit up here and repeat it. But everyone up here is continuing to remain silent. My child is going through more trauma because you guys choose to pay a lawyer firm to respond to my emails. You choose to pay a lawyer firm to try to discredit my advocate. When my advocate is the one that's following the laws, doing everything the way it should be done. And because there's some type of, I'm gonna call it a cover-up. Because when you have documentation showing that you removed my child illegally, and I'm able to show the documentation, and the responses I get from people that's in charge of this, and this is specific to you, Dr. Sykes, stating that it's okay, that it's not on his record. It doesn't show up in Power School, but you know my child was illegally removed and no one did anything to it. And now the issue that we're at right now, which I'm not going to repeat it because everyone on the stage is well aware of what's going on, but everyone is still remaining to stay silent. But your own policy on your website, see something, say something, and everyone that is aware is not saying anything. And I'm trying to make me seem like I'm the one that's taking the aggressive approach when there's plenty of documentation showing where things have been done wrong on the administration side, and no one is doing anything about it. So what I'm asking you guys, if you see something, please say something. And that's all I have to say.
Public input now closed. Next, we have superintendent's report.
Yes, after presenting on the budget and Dr. Bishop's report, I just wanted to give an update on the parking lot at the elementary school. That is out to bid right now, and we will receive bids on the 23rd and be open. So we are on schedule once we receive those to begin construction and have it completed just before the beginning of the next school year. That is an update on that.
That's all you have?
That is all I have.
All right. Next, we are about to go in closed meeting. Excuse me. Pursuant to the Code of Virginia, the board will go into closed session to discuss personnel matters and student matters. May I have a motion to go into closed session? Yes, we finished all business. Yes. I haven't missed anything. No, that's at the end. We come back out of closed session. Okay. I'm going by the agenda, which I have. Okay. Okay.
That's right. Right, it used to be at the beginning of the meeting. Right. it has to be before the consent agenda, because whatever we vote on out in the closed session, it must be because we need to vote on. I did.
I'll read the minutes. Mr. Kennedy made a motion to accept the additions as listed on the amended agenda and to move the consent agenda between the return to open meeting and old business, which is how we're exercising this meeting tonight.
Okay, well, based on the minutes that we have and what I have in front of me, this is, we're about to go into close. And then we'll return out of close, go through the consent agenda, old business, new business, and then recess. Okay, so we have a motion,
So moved.
Second.
moving proper second, we are now in close meeting. Could I have a motion to come out of close?
Second.
Moving proper second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried. In pursuant to the Code of Virginia, the board discussed personnel matters and student matters during the closed sessions. Matters discussed in closed sessions have been added to consent agenda and other parts of the agenda as action items and information items. Board members, please certify about that only lawful matters were discussed in closed sessions. Board members, please respond by roll call.
Dr. Burnett,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mrs. McMurtry,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Robbins.
Yes.
Okay. Could I have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moving properly second in question. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried. Next we have old business. Do we have any old business? Any new business? Okay. You'll have a motion to take a recess? Yes, because we have meeting tomorrow evening.
So moved. I move we recess.
So 4:30 tomorrow evening at the historical courthouse in Saluda. All right, move to second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion is so carried.